Hi, I'm Karen Minenti. I'm an artist here in Gowanus. Today we're at TI Studios and we're going to meet with a few artists who are going to help you learn how to prepare for Gowanus Open Studios. It's Arts Gowanus's biggest event of the year. Over 300 artists participate, open up their studios to the public, to industry professionals, and to really anyone who wants to get an inside look at what's going on in the arts community in Gowanus. We're going to talk you through a few tips and tricks about how to get your studio prepared. Hi! Thanks for having us!
Thanks for coming. Welcome.
Marcus! Hey! Dean! Hi! Thanks for having us!
I can remember when I did Gowanus Open Studios for the first time. I remember, how nervous I was, and I remember how I kind of felt underprepared, but in actuality, I utilized all the tools that I had, and it ended up becoming like a very successful, open studios for me.
So you really make it nice and like fresh, like almost like a gallery.
Yeah, I do like patch holes and maybe paint a little bit.
Well, I clean a lot of surfaces off. That's one thing that I think everyone should do, because get rid of any extra furniture and supply carts and things like that.
I think I'm going to switch the studio up just a little bit. Like I just kind of want to streamline it. I like to envision my studio almost like a gallery. So I'm probably going to keep it like that. But for the most part, I may make it more spacious for people to come in and more inviting.
I definitely use social media, but I think it's really getting harder and harder to sort of rely on that. I think people's habits have changed. Algorithms kind of get in the way. I think a lot of us have gotten lazy as far as mailing lists, but I really am going to have to lean on that one much harder this time. But I'll still do all the social media stuff because I think it's kind of fun too.
I start promoting like maybe through social media. I start promoting through like word of mouth. I also do like the whole friend thing. Like I ask a friend to ask a friend, to come. I may like tag people, like Arts Gowanus. I may even do something like, 5 artists to check out in TI Studios. And I choose like the 5 artists that I like within TI Studios or something like that. I always like to do this thing like FOMO, like fear of missing out. So my words are very intentional on like trying to get people in the door, like, what to expect when coming to open studios. You're gonna see like new work that people have I've never exhibited before. I may have pieces under $500. I may offer like a sale, or I may offer payment plans. I may offer I may say like, you can expect to have a good time in my studio, or you can expect to connect with other people, So I think I kind of like utilize all of that.
I always welcome people in, and I think a big tip during open studios is not to stand there and look at your phone, but to greet people when they come in.
I have 2 things kind of working against me. Is one, you have to come around the corner, and 2, my studio is down a hallway, and people are a little nervous about committing to that walk down the hallway. But the easiest thing I do is I kind of perch myself right over there where I'm at a vantage point to the door, and I say welcome. That's my big trick. I say welcome and beckon people through, and then it's actually a good way to start a conversation with people, because some people are nervous about walking into an artist's studio, and so I just explain the setup to them, and it's just an easy way to sort of open up the conversation.
After you greet them, let them look a little bit. A lot of people instantly go into their spiel. And I think it's really good to have people absorb what they're seeing.
I put up little signs about the work. It's going back to like, a conversation starter, because it's interesting when people come to open studios. Some people just want to see the work, but there's always the person that's tagging along that's like needs to read about it, and they may not want to read an artist statement, but they might want to read like something like, just a factoid or why, or just a little something, and that goes back to just having a conversation about it, or just opening it up so people might ask you another question about it. And
my series often needs explanation. But I'll refrain on that until people have looked at it and kind of have their eyes digest it a little bit. And again, be welcoming, but don't make people feel like you're like watching them, intently watching your work. Just, chill.
I like to greet people like as they're coming through the door. One of the things that I was taught was like if I'm like inside a gallery, or if my art is inside a gallery, and if the person who's working the front desk doesn't get up to greet me, then that's probably not the gallery that I want to be a part of. So even with people coming to my studio, I normally always get up and greet them, even if I'm tired. Like I just get up and just say, hey, thank you. Welcome to my studio. Let me know if you have any questions or anything like that, and I welcome them in.
If I see them looking at a piece, I'll maybe walk over for a long time, like after they've looked at it, and I'll point something out. And I, again, try to not tell them every single part of the process. There's a lot of studios, there's a lot of artists here, so you want to just make their time as brief and happy as possible so they're not bogged down with information.
I also noticed there are some artists who like to create while people are coming into the studio. For me, I think it's great because it gets to show people like what your skills are, but I think for me, what I saw was like it was cutting off a connection with the potential collector. So I like to always like just talk and just, like create a dialogue and connection with the person that's coming into the studio, because you never know who's actually coming into your studio. It could be a collector, it could be a curator, it could be a gallery owner, like you never know. My intentions are always to make that person feel special. Like when they walk out of that door, like they remember me or they remember the way I made them feel.
I have people who have collected my work. They come to open studios, and I highlight them, and it's like, and one, they're very special to me because they've collected my work, but then the people around, like, oh, that's an ordinary person collecting work, and you just want to sort of, you too, my work may not be to your taste, but there's just like artists all over that weekend that be a collector. So yes, I think it's really important to sort of celebrate that.
I think more than anything, to the advice to like the newcomer, I guess artists or whatever, just have fun, and B, just connect with the people that are coming into your studios.
That's the overall goal, or my mission for that weekend, is just to have conversations about work. Like I'm working on a new series behind me, and I haven't really figured out how to talk about it. So that's sort of my goal for this one, is how do you talk about it so it resonates, and really, but it at the same time you're economical in your explanation. Visually I got it down. Yeah. Articulating that, it's a little clumsy. Yeah, and you have that like immediate response, like from people's facial expressions, like huh, and or that click, like oh yeah, and so that sort of helps you sort of develop that tone or voice of how you want to present the work.
I normally have a goal. I always set like an intention before open studios. I don't know, I always kind of tell myself like, do I want like more followers? Do I want more people for my email list? Do I want to make sales? I do set a financial goal of X amount of money. I always tell myself like I want to generate X amount of money and more. And that could mean that I could generate that money the weekend of open studios, or it could happen like right after open studios. But I do set some type of intention because I don't want to like just kind of go in blind.
Open studios, I think, is more about meeting the artist, and I think that often people will contact you afterwards. I don't go in thinking, I'm gonna sell my whole work, all my work today. Learning how to read people, learning how to boil down the essence of what you do.
If someone comes into my studio and they express some type of interest, it could be a scenario like, oh, I really love this piece, I need to go home, I need to talk to my partner. I always do a follow-up. Again, like I was a business owner before I was an artist, so I was always taught like the sale is in the follow-up. So I give it back like a week, maybe 2 weeks tops, and I say, hey, this is DeMarcus from, Gowanus Open Studios. It was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming by my studio. You shared an interest in a particular piece. I just wanted to know, like, how could we get that into your home? Or just, do you have any questions on the piece or something like that? It normally kind of gets the ball rolling.
Some people won't get your work. Some people will walk in and say, oh, and then walk out. But it's just part of the whole thing. And but generally, there's always some really wonderful feedback you're going to get that you're like, wow, that feels so good.
Oftentimes, they don't really sell off the wall, but I sort of develop relationships with people, and they might come and buy one later, or see something of mine on social media and say, oh, that's the one I want. So it's sort of I'm kind of like a slow burn, like you kind of like it, but you're not sure, and then, eventually, some people come around. So. And that's how I approach it. It's actually not, I guess, liberating, so I don't have to put so much pressure on myself, and I don't put pressure on other people. I think they can feel that, like they don't like that selly thing. So I just try to keep it open and keep the conversation going, and come back if you want.
So the square, I find, is really, really an important. I don't know what I would have done without that, because it's just the easiest way. I would say if anyone still has the little one that goes on top of your phone, it's like, doesn't work. This is very basic, and it's really all you need, but this is really key. I have New York State sales tax built into my charge. I do tell people that tax will be added right before they make the purchase, so it's not a surprise, and when they swipe it, it automatically figures it out. When people are in your studio, it's important to have a price list. Or you can price right under the pieces, but I think that when people see that information, which is like the least favorite part of artists and maybe collectors, the business part, I feel like if it's easy and there's no stress about it, and they can just look quietly and see what you're asking for the prices, that's a really good thing to do.
I accept it all. Like, you can Zelle me, I normally use like a Square reader, because a lot of people like to pay through credit cards. So I have like a Square reader. I will say, if you're doing a Square reader, remember to get the signature, because I once sold a piece, and at the time it was my highest piece, and the collector purchased it. I was so excited, freaked out in my head, and I forgot to have them sign it. And if they don't sign it, it automatically voids out the transaction. Any way that the person wants to pay me, I accept it, like I'm prepared for it. Oh yeah, and add sales tax to everything, so.
What happens is, like for me, I get a lot of foot traffic. I don't know, I guess a mailing list, and like all day people are coming in. So my biggest advice is to get good sleep, if you can, no partying the night before, and just have water for yourself, wear comfortable shoes, have someone bring you a sandwich during it.